Good evening, everyone. It's about 6:35. So I thought I'd do a quick introduction to this topic for a different blog. This one's going to still be under health homework, but in this case I'm going to talk about kind of like legal and financial health. So I'll talk about a few of my own rules, so to speak, and these are rules that I've learned the hard way, because obviously I didn't know anything, so I had to start from zero. So starting from zero and going through a lot of hard experiences, some of which I only learned from, years later. So, but reflecting on those experiences, either the recent ones or the ones from years ago, these are some of the things that I've learned about what I call, again, financial health and legal health, because, when we talk about health, we can all talk about diet and exercise and supplements. For me, that's easy stuff. Like, for me, science is easy. Nutrition is easy. Biochemistry is easy. Pharmacology, easy. Like, for me, that's relaxing. Like, if I want to relax, I read science. But what's the most expensive for me, in terms of like my own personal biological energy, what costs me the most isn't construction work, like when I used to have a farm and used to do a lot of outdoor work in cement and doing whatever with the animals and whatever, construction. I used to build furniture at times too. Like, I can do that stuff all day. I can read science. I can read philosophy and psychology and whatever else. Like, for me, that stuff is easy. That doesn't cost me energy because I actually get good energy out of it. But for me, what's the most expensive for my own biological energy is having to deal with complex social and legal situations and financial situations. Like, that stuff will exhaust me. So, like, I could do physical work all day. I could read science all day. And I can have one bad email interaction, that has some like financial or personal or social weight to it. And like one email will wipe me out for the whole day. So again, like I said, I'm going to put this under the heading of health homework. I think this is number 8. And talk about a little bit of financial and legal health. And those are interrelated, because if you're legally okay and you're financially okay, then you have time to then focus on your health. On the other hand, if you've got legal problems or financial problems, then focusing on health becomes much more difficult. And you'll notice I'm saying problems. I'm not saying like status. So if a person's poor and they're kind of stable in that state of being poor, so to speak, then that doesn't cost them necessarily, especially depending on the entire social context. In some countries, being poor, like in Spain, for example, like being poor in Spain is actually fine, because the nation, the country, provides so much social infrastructure. You've got mass transit, you've got public parks, you've got public benefits, you've got free education, you've got free healthcare. So, like, we have friends who are poor in Spain and they're totally happy. But if you're newly poor, or if you're at risk of being poor due to some problem or some type of legal threat, then that's a different situation. So that can be very stressful. And being enmeshed, at least, again, for me, maybe some people handle it differently or better. But for me, like, being enmeshed with people, especially like people who I'm forced to have a relationship with, like, for example, in work or in certain legal contracts and things like that. For me, those have always been the most exhausting, like totally exhausting. I'll probably talk about it more. I did talk about it in one of my more recent posts where I was talking about some of I think the title of it was 11 Lessons Learned from Dealing with, Corrupt university presidents and academicians and business people and things like that. So the post that I'm introducing right now and still working on, I'll probably send it out tonight, talks about some of not simply the lessons learned, but how to actually, like, what are the strategies? So it's one thing to learn like a conceptual lesson, and then something else to learn a technique, or a tactic, I should say, a tactic, where you can actually turn that, conceptual learning into something that you can actually do, almost like in the form of a checklist, when confronted with a similar situation. So that's what I have been working on now for about 2 weeks, and I think I'll send it out today or tomorrow. Today's Saturday, which makes tomorrow Sunday, so I'll send it out this weekend, probably today though, because I'm ready to be done with that, because I already have like the other parts to it, so I want to send that out. So the other thing that you'll notice is I don't do very many talking head videos. This is what's called, in video and education world, this is called a talking head video, where I'm talking into the camera for the most part. Those are very engaging, but they're not really good for actual learning of complex material. So if it's, the more complex it is, the more you actually have to focus on the material, not on the person's face. But human beings, we're all hardwired to look at faces, right? From the time we're babies. So that's the other thing I think about. That's why I don't do so many videos like this. I always want the focus to be on the material, not necessarily on me, which is probably why I don't sell as much as people who are always, trying to focus the camera on them and them and them and them and their personality and stuff. I just try to, and I do this in my books and my teaching, I always try to focus on the material. So anyway, that's a little more insight into how and why I do some of the things I do. Try to focus on the material. So that's why I use so much written material and graphics, and not so much, again, talking head videos. But again, wanted to introduce that topic. I'll send it out later today, this weekend sometime, and hope you all get some good things out of it. I've gotten good things out of it because, of course, in the process of writing it, I have to organize my thoughts, and that helps me because eventually, I think what I'll do, and I may do this before I send it out, or I may turn it into a PDF later, but ultimately, the information I'm about to send out, I want it to be in the form of a checklist so that you could use it, or I could use it, so that when these situations arise, we collectively and personally can manage it. And I'm going to focus on what I wanted to mention, and I'll mention it right now as I start to close out this video, is the example running through my mind when I talk about this on the website is that of a recent legal contract that I had to negotiate. It wasn't given to me to negotiate, it was given to me to sign. They basically said, here, sign this. And then I got a different version of the same thing. They said, here, sign this. And if I had signed it the way that it was, I think that it would have cost me up to $20 million, potentially. So, and I'll mention this in the blog, I'm sure, but I want to reinforce it since I already have the camera on right now. In a legal contract, which ultimately becomes kind of a financial destiny, a single word can change the course of the outcome. And in the contract that I'm, mentally referencing right now, and again, I'll reference it I meant to actually bring it so I could show it to you. But I wasn't going to show you the actual words, just the piece of paper, so it's kind of the same. In that contract, for a single word, that single word could have cost me easily $10 million, if not $20 million, or potentially even more, but let's just say 20 million max, or 10 million minimum. $10 million for a single word in a contract. And so that's why, I had to, kind of wise up quickly in having to deal with that, and that's how I got some insights, and that's why I want to share it in the blog. So I'll share that this weekend and kind of show you. The other thing that I think about, in the world of contracts and in the world of work, another way that I think about it, I'm not trying to be like pessimistic or too much of a cynic, but in the world of contracts and in the world of money, when you're talking about, especially when you're talking about millions of dollars, right? If it's a few bucks between friends, do whatever you want. I personally don't care. About 2 years ago, I had to lend somebody about $1,000 US, is like 900 euros. And I didn't expect that she was going to pay me back. She never paid me back, and I don't care, because between friends, it's like money is money. You manage that however you want, and it can either make or it's not going to make the relationship, but it could break the relationship if you set that term around it. I chose to not set that term around it because I knew this person was poor and she wasn't going to pay me back. Not because she's a bad person, she just doesn't have the money. That's why she's asking me for money to begin with. So I gave her, whatever, 900 euros, about $1,000, just because she needed it. But not with the expectation she's going to pay me back. But as the money situation gets bigger, and you start talking about millions of dollars, tens of millions, $20 million in this case, the new policy that I have around that is that basically friendship doesn't exist. So, for example, in the contract that I'm speaking about, that contract was presented to me kind of under the auspice of friendship from someone that I've known for 20, 30 years. And again, when you start talking about millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, $20 million, my rule is that friendship at that point doesn't exist. Because I've heard people say, oh yeah, we're friends, and oh yeah, this and that, and oh, this is family and whatever, like we're supposed to be, we're such good friends that we're family or something like that. Not for 10 million bucks. For 10 million bucks, people betray their own friends and family, and they bail and they just go move somewhere else and they forget about it and they start over. So the bigger the money, the smaller the social, emotional, and kind of friendship influence on that. It just becomes a zero issue. It's like people talk friendship, they talk loyalty, they talk honor, they talk memories, whatever. For 10 million bucks, they're going to get over all that stuff real fast. So again, that's why I had to learn, and that's why I put this blog together that I'll share on the website. So I hope you enjoy it. That was my extended introduction, and that's probably it for right now. And I'll see you somewhere in the internet. Take care. Bye.